Welcome to the Soulbound Studios Podcast. This is your space to dream bigger, live bolder, and create a life that lights you up. My name's Mandy. I'm your host, and I'm here to spark your creativity, fuel your growth, and remind you that your dream life isn't just possible, it's waiting for you. Through soulful conversations, heartfelt reflections, and actionable tips, we'll explore the art of living fully and authentically. Whether you're discovering your creative spark, setting boundaries that honor your worth, or manifesting your next big vision, you're in the right space. So let's dive in and start building a life that feels as good as it looks. And don't forget to subscribe and check out Soulbound Society, my happy mail subscription for a dose of joy and inspiration to keep your journey going strong. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Soulbound Studios Podcast. I've had a lovely experience reaching out with people in Instagram, and that's how I met my new friend, Rohit. And he reached out to me and was saying that he's a sound healer, and we just instantly connected and have like a good energy together. And so I invited him on our podcast, and I think we're going to have a beautiful conversation. So welcome, Rohit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to connect with you for sure.
Yeah.
And definitely looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. So tell our audience about you. I got to know you just a little bit right before we hit record, but tell us who you are and how you got started and what you're doing.
Who am I? That's always a daunting question.
Right.
But long story short, my name is Rohit, and I'm from India in a city called Pune, which is a cool city. Like, it's called a student city. It has a vibe to it. There are a lot of cafes and a lot of places to hang out. And I've pretty much been here my entire life. I've traveled around to a few places. And one thing that really keeps me going is wanting to explore different cultures and go to different places around the world. So that's where I stay. And what I do is basically a lot of things in the creative sphere. Since childhood, I used to always be passionate about art. So drawing and painting became a very integral part of my life. And it's what I always knew I was going to do. But I wanted to like upgrade my skills a little more. So I went and studied animation. Then I'm also very passionate about music. So I started learning how to make music. And now life has brought me to a place where I'm delving more into the mental health sphere. And I'm looking forward to using my creative gifts of art, music, movement, also a lot of spiritual knowledge that I've acquired over the years through life's experiences, to help people with their mental health and just spread some more joy and laughter in this world.
Oh, you make my heart so happy. So there's so many things that I want to like unpack, like pick apart each little thing that you said. But the one that really catches me is what I love about this connection that you and I have here right now is that we're both in this creative healing type of space, right? Like my whole platform is supposed to be for the arts and therapeutic art and creative living and mental health and personal development. And you're right in sync with that. And another thing that's been really on my mind is one, men's mental health, but two, I initially was thinking that my platform was going to appeal to women, like moms that are kind of struggling through life's chaos and, things like that. And as I started teaching workshops, my very first therapeutic art workshop that I taught was here in town locally. And I had 3 men attend. And it surprised me. I was like, okay, I need to not be exclusive to women. And so to have you on the podcast and to be speaking about creative living and men's mental health and all of the things, I'm just like so fired up. There's like this huge fire in my soul. Like I could like scream from the rooftops. So this is going to be really good.
Definitely. I think, there's a completely whole different tangent to men's mental health and how they operate and how they function, how they process their emotions. And um, I think one of the main aspects, like you said, is a lot of men feel the need to express, you know, and sometimes they do not have this creative outlet to express. They may want to, they end up expressing through means that are not so conducive for them. So one of the things I noticed after coming into this space, like you say, like the creative therapy space, is that 90% of the therapists are like women in
Mm-hmm.
this space, Yeah. And like whoever I've been connecting to, I'm just like, all of them are women. I'm like, I've stepped into a very different field over here. So one of my main goals, obviously, in life is to um, kind of help men upgrade their ways of thinking, because I feel a lot of a lot of it in today's times has gotten very chaotic with, you know, like this thing called this red pill culture, where you have like all these top-notch business dudes like trying to propagate, like, if you don't have $1 billion and the hottest chick or like a sexy car, like you're not a real man. And you know and then there's also the aspect of a lot of men imbibing feminine energy, I would say, where they have become a little more, over the course of time, obviously, they've become a little more subdued from what we were when we were like out hunting, fighting wars, now. So, yeah, like one very good way to prove this is that if you check like testosterone levels of men over the course of years, they have fallen down drastically. So,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. And because of the lifestyle, because of sitting in a cubicle, because of not being exposed to the sun, because of coming, I'm sure like one of the aspects of like work life, not only over here, but in many places in the world, is that you wake up early in the morning, you just like, like a robot, you dress up everything and you go to work, you work all day, you come back at night, and then you're just so tired, you need a little drink or you need a little you time and you go to sleep. There's nothing much happening in terms of like balancing your energies out in different aspects of life, like with family, with creativity, with your body. So yeah.
I am like my head is spinning on all sorts of ideas. Like when you speak, I just have like 12,000 ideas of how you and I could maybe collaborate in different ways. We'll have to figure that out. But what I really love
Yeah.
about this is that there's scientific reasons for why men are feeling the way they are. Like
Yeah.
it's not just and I think too different cultures, and maybe you can speak on this on what it's like in India, but I know in America men are taught to toughen up, no emotions, hold it together for your family, like get your shit done and get your like be successful, and if you're not perfect then what's wrong with you, and
Absolutely.
there's no safe space for them to fall apart.
Yeah, it's regardless of which part of the world you are in, like it's something that is common all over the world, I feel. Um, that's because there is a idea or a image of what a man is supposed to be and supposed to be of value in, from a society point of view or from a family point of view. But I would say like the real challenge is to firstly look within and reflect on the fact that you are beyond all of these things and you can achieve all of these things. And if it's not there, it should not impact your own self value.
Mm,
Because if I speak for my own like personal life, which is the same aspect has been a major challenge. Because I mean, I was always the artist kid, like no radical plans like for jobs or, so it was very tough for my folks to like wrap their head around that. Okay, you want to do art, but is that even a real job?
mm,
Like how are you
yep.
gonna how are you going to survive, how are you going to, like, I mean, luckily, my skills convinced them that okay, I could do something like this, but still, it's not really, you're not really encouraged to like follow your passion.
Mm,
Then you have to kind of narrow your route down to money making, which is again like I started working and earning money pretty late in my life actually, like because most of my part was like doing college and stuff. So I started working very late, and I kind of noticed how my family dynamics changed, like the way they treated me changed when I started providing, or when I
mm.
started like, stepping up and like giving. And I saw like how you are treated differently when you are doing something like this.
Dig into
So
that a little bit
yeah,
more. Let's camp here a little bit. What does that mean? Like, how do you think you were treated prior, and then when you started making those changes, how do you feel like you were treated afterwards?
I just like, for one thing, for like an example, like you most before you start providing, I feel like you're not really taken seriously.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, like no matter what you do, like it's always looked as like, oh, this guy has just like some random bizarre plans, and like, he wants to do this, he wants to do that. And my personality is like that. Like I'm very artistic and very creative, and I like to dip my fingers into everything. So for me to pinpoint and say this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, it's pretty hard, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then also, also there's one other aspect to it, is that as you start aging, you you kind of want to lose the dependency that you have on your folks, you know. And as long as you're dependent, you feel very like limited in your way of doing things. Like there's
Right.
only that much you can do, there's only that much I can explore or go out. And you're like, it also, I would say, on a very egoic level, it also stings a man when you have to ask for money, like,
Mm.
in some ways. Like it kind of feels like, oh, you feel a little bit like a loser sometimes, you know.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because okay, so I hate to turn this and talk about like the struggles that women are also going through, but I feel like this relates
Yeah.
because I'm a single mom. And so I then
Mm-hmm.
have to take the role of the masculine and the feminine in my home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that feeling of needing to provide for my kids and my family, and then that pride level of not wanting to ask other people for money, it's there for me too.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and so I think it's there for a lot of people just in general, but I understand that men feel this at a much more intense level because that's the gender role. And so
Yeah.
I feel like we need to like as a society break those, but at the same time I feel like that's where people find their purpose and their place. And it's how do you balance that of like wanting to be the provider but also wanting to go after your dreams and feel supported in that too. It's like
Yeah.
it's a catch
Yeah.
22, I feel like sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, I was raised by a single mother, just like you are a single mother. And so this is a very important part of my life because, like you said, the roles start shifting. Now, the feminine has to embody the masculine to kind of do what you have to do, to make you meet your ends. And so I was raised without that masculine energy in some ways, that is supposed to be like, tough and guiding you, or like, um but my mother embodied that for me. And so did my elder sister. So I was raised by like all women.
Good.
And so yeah, yeah. And so my own energy for a very long time was very feminine,
Mm,
very feminine. Like I could feel, that's why I can relate with women a lot, because, and I feel very comfortable around them, because like I still do embody a lot of feminine energy, but it's now in a state of balance with the masculine. And I would say the time I started feeling more masculine was when I had purpose, when I
Mm,
was providing, when I was, is this just a feeling like things start shifting and are you like stepping into a different role in your life? And yeah, it's quite interesting because it kind of, this dynamic of masculine and feminine energy is something that shaped me, and I would love to bring it to the world, that to understand and to feel that every being, regardless like if you're a man or woman, like biologically you do have to embody both energies when
mm,
it's needed, you know. And I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to men's mental health, or I'm going to talk specifically about men's mental health right now.
good.
It
I'm
can
glad.
be applied to, it can be applied to women also. Is that some of them are not made to express this feminine energy of theirs. You
Yes.
know, they do not have an outlet, or depending on their upbringing, like this kind of energy has been suppressed. So they are just overly into the masculine, and sometimes it's not even the right kind of masculinity, because how I to me it's difficult to be fully in my masculine without understanding the feminine, you know.
100%.
Yeah, so I think a lot of men in today's times need to, and they are afraid, like they are afraid of like, oh, these guys will think of me that I'm just like a loser if I start crying, or like, mm, what will people think? And it's like there's a lot of judgment based on this venting source that they need to have. So yeah, I feel more and more men need to start channelizing into their creativity, into their feminine energy, or just to get it into a state of balance.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes men have a lot of feminine energy, and again it's out of balance. Like, you're not really syncing with the world's needs. You might attract a partner who is more masculine, uh, which happened with me also. Like, I had a lot of feminine energy, and I came across women who were very like fierce and very goal driven, very motivated. So the whole dynamic was completely whack. But yeah.
So, okay, let's camp here
Yeah.
for a second because
Yeah.
I let's talk about mental health and relationships, I guess, for a second, because that was
Hmm.
not something I expected to dive into, but I think this is good. So, I have in my course of dating since my divorce, I have dated specifically two men that really struggled with mental health. And
Hmm.
in both instances, they were 2 years apart. Like I dated one 2 years ago and one was more recent. And
Hmm.
in both instances, they put on a facade at first, like they almost like wore a mask and like was trying to
Yeah.
be this person, but they knew underneath that they couldn't sustain that. And
Hmm.
eventually they kind of took off their mask and said, look, I'm really struggling. But then they shut me out and then they
Mm.
just cut me off. And it was so hard for me as the fixer and the empath and someone that wants to support that and be like, okay, fall into me, like allow me to hold you and like help, and like I will
Hmm.
trudge through the mud with you, I will put on my work boots and we will fight this together. But they just shut me out
Yeah.
instead. And I don't know how to support them, like as a female,
Yeah.
especially when it's a new relationship, right? You don't
Yeah.
live together, you're just starting to get to know each other. I don't know what I can do to support someone through that. Like as much as I try, I maybe I'm
Yeah.
coming on too strong with my support, and then I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been in this dynamic where, you know, like I've met someone, and in the initial few days, like their personality is the mask personality. What do you want to show? Which is why I think like a real relationship starts like 3 months or 4 months after you know this person, and
Yes.
all the masks have like just come off, and you're like totally cool with each other and being like vulnerable or whatever, which is another like really important aspect in a relationship, I feel, is vulnerability.
Hmm.
And again, like when you are shut, or when you're blocked, or especially men who again have a hard time, like, understanding their feminine energy. They have a hard time being vulnerable. Maybe they are so like you shut off that you can't express sometimes. So yeah, I definitely feel like this needs to be shifted.
Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
think as women, we want to be there. We want to support. Like, I don't think men's mental health in a new relationship is a red flag in any way. Like, if you as a general are a good person, like
Yeah.
I want to be there to trudge through the mud with you because I think it's worth being there when the storm clears, you know? But
Yeah.
it's one of those that I also can't force someone to open up, and I can't force someone to want to
No.
share their struggles with me, and I can't, and so I just kind of let them lead it, but unfortunately that means that I get shut out. And so I that's one of the things that I really want to dig into is learning how women can do our part to support men's mental health, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if enough of us know how to support it.
That's quite an interesting one. I think it really depends on the man and the woman,
Mm-hmm.
because and it really depends on how you process your emotions, because some people like to express vocally, some people just need their space, you know. Some people can take a vacation or go on a break for a month or something and come back a little more refreshed. But all in all, I feel like what would women need to do to, I think something as simple as healthy communication, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like it's easier said than done actually at times, especially when, like you said, you want to be there to walk through the hard times and the good times. And I feel a real relationship is when two people together can come and face the problem together instead of being the problem for each other,
Right.
you know. And it's something that I feel is hard to find, because when things are all rosy and you're in that love struck mode, like it's all good. But when things start to get bad, like you really start to question your decisions, and it takes real courage to be like, okay, we'll go through this together. And I feel if the man is in a right state of mind, it's something he will really value, when somebody can walk through all aspects of life with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said something that I want to dig into and maybe switch gears, is you talked about it's how you process your emotions. So
Yeah.
if men were not, and I think this is where you and I come in with what we do. If
Mm.
men were not taught how to process their emotions, there's, I think, I can think of a couple different things we can do to teach them how to process
Yeah.
their emotions. And I instantly think of therapeutic art practices or journaling. Those are really good things to help you kind of process what you're feeling. But that's what I do. and
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel like those are a little bit more of a feminine activity, and maybe that's where you have to have a good balance of the masculine and the feminine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What are some other things
Yeah.
that you think men can do to help process their emotions?
Well, one thing I would say that from my own experience that created a drastic shift was exercise,
Mm,
like, movement, sweating it out, releasing, um, pushing through the pain, like, because it's the same with life, when you can push through the pain, like you feel good. So similarly, when you go to the gym and you exercise, you work out, you sweat it out, like it's kind of, you are filled with endorphins, you're releasing, you are feeling good, you are just like embodying a better version of yourself. So I feel exercise is one thing that every man, every person actually should look into
yeah.
for improving their mental health. And because I used to be a very fat kid, to be honest. I used
Did
to be
you?
like, yeah, I used to be like around 100 kgs, and there was no sports or no like physical activity in my life. And as and how I grew older, like I was starting to get depressed. I was starting to, doubt myself, and there was no self-esteem or confidence to like even go and talk to someone. And I think once I got in shape and I started like feeling good about myself, and that's the first aspect, then there's also looking good, which is like the byproduct of exercise or a good diet, you know. So once you feel that, you feel good, you feel more confident, you feel like you can express yourself better.
Mm.
So exercise is one thing. And I would say another really important thing for mental health is that shift that created a big shift for me. And this happened when I started with the book The Artist's Way.
Ooh,
you
I
know
love that book.
yeah.
I have that book.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's an incredible book. It's an incredible book. So I think when I started journaling and doing the morning pages like
Yes.
every day and just writing to a point where like really like you feel that everything is coming out,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's
What I
I
love
feel I
about
felt yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go
I
ahead.
just want to
No,
just
no, no.
like
Go ahead.
speak
Go
on that
ahead.
while we're here. What
Yeah.
I love about that challenge is in the artist's way, she says to write 3 8.5 by 11 pages every morning.
Yeah.
And she's like, the first page is going to be a challenge because you don't know what to write about. But by the time you get halfway through the challenge to the page and a
Yeah.
half to 2 pages, it just starts flowing. And then you want to keep writing. And
Yeah.
that was one that, so I journal and I love journaling, but I usually buy the smaller size journals, like the half
Mm-hmm.
page journals. But after I read that book and I was doing that challenge, I bought a full 8.5 by 11 journal, and that thing's a
Yeah.
monster to lug around. But it is, I do think that that is a
Yeah.
very beautiful book and a beautiful challenge. And The Artist's Way, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you mentioned a book that I know and I
Yeah.
love because that's like my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, definitely. It did change my life in a lot of ways because I told you like I was having a block with my creativity and doubting myself as a creative at some point in my journey. So writing is something that really helped me dig deeper into my subconscious and release. And at some point I felt like, wow, I didn't know I can write so well. Like,
Yeah.
because there's always this fixed label of like associating yourself as an artist, as this, as that. And once you shed all the labels and you just start free flowing, like you see like a lot of magic happening in the process.
Yeah, and you
So
become a
it's
writer
quite,
too. Like you identify as a writer. And
yeah.
that was one that was weird for me because so I went through a really nasty postpartum depression, and that's when I found
Mm-hmm.
art. And I used
Mm-hmm.
art and its creative healing properties to help me through my postpartum depression. But I
Mm-hmm.
found writing when I was going through my divorce. And
Wow.
it's such an interesting thing to me to see different life challenges and how you find different creative coping skills. And writing was the one I needed. When I was going through my divorce, I didn't want to paint. It wasn't something that spoke to my soul at that time. I needed to write. And
Yeah.
it was one that I just needed my journal. But then my journal became like, he would read my journal and then use my journal against me. And so it was like I had to, if I was going to write in my journal, I had to take it everywhere with me. So it became my ally. It
Yeah.
became my friend.
Yeah.
And I had it in my purse with me at all times. And it was just one of those things that I just started writing. And then so now it's really hard for me because I'm like, am I a writer? And then I'm doing podcasting. So it's a lot of,
Yeah.
creative coping through words.
Mm-hmm.
But it's creativity as a whole. So I guess I identify more as a creative than anything specific now.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah,
I
I'm an
think
artist, I'm a
the
writer,
yeah,
I don't know, I'm a creative, whatever.
yeah. It's the same with me because like there are so many things that I love doing and so many things that like I've experimented. Even as an artist, like I've never had one particular style. Like, if you go to Instagram and you open an artist page, you'll see like they
Their
have this
theme,
one
like they've got a
designer,
whole
yeah.
body of work and it all
Yeah,
looks the same.
yeah. And like I'm like, okay, if I'm on social media, I think I need to do something like this because my work is just all over the place. I'm like doing doodles, I'm doing cartoons, I'm doing realistic painting, surrealistic stuff, graphic design, literally everything under the table of creativity. So again, to put that label of like, what am I supposed to do has been very hard for me. So I identify as creative and creator, you know,
There's a
and
quote.
it's,
I put
yeah.
it on my Instagram not too long ago, but I have it on a sticky note here on my desk.
Oh, wow.
And it's from my favorite book, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And it says,
Mm-hmm.
just create anything and put it out there with reckless abandon. Like,
Wow.
who cares what people think? Who
Yeah.
cares if it fits a theme, if it fits a style? Create something and put it out into
Yeah.
the universe as if it means everything to you, but as if it means nothing to you. Like,
Yeah.
it's got to mean everything but mean nothing at the same time. And it's I just
Absolutely.
love that stuff. So
Yeah.
okay, so sound healing. That's a totally
Hmm.
different like world in a little bit. We're going to totally shift
Yeah.
gears. But that's what
Yeah.
how you introduced yourself to me. It was sound
Hmm.
healer. And I don't
Yeah.
even know what that means. Talk to me about how you got into that. What is it? How can it help people?
So sound healing is something that like is a very special part of my life. And along with, I mean, art is something that I always identified with as a child and even till this date, but sound is something that is really like my playground, you know. Like
Ooh.
I can hear things and feel it and like kind of create things in my head and bring it out into the universe, like, and it's almost like a magical process for me. And I think it really started off with like my circle growing up, because I always grew up with musicians, and we always had a very, you know, non-commercial taste in music. So it was always like the extremes. It was always like the, you know, things that didn't sound like really commercial. So, and I think I reached a phase in my life where I was struck with like depression and anxiety and like literally every mental health problem like you can imagine, sleeplessness, restlessness, palpitations, and all these kind of things. And I was also very hooked on to different substances at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and also through prescription medication. And so I figured out like I cannot be doing this my entire life. Like this cycle has to end right now. And so I started experimenting with sound. My first patient or my first client was myself.
Oh, good.
And yeah,
That's the best place to
and
start.
yeah, and I think it started out with um like seeing and understanding the concept of vibrations and frequencies, because and brain waves, because if you know like what Tesla said, like if you want to know the secrets of the universe, you have to think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And everything vibrates on a certain frequency. When you are in a bad mood, you are vibrating at a certain frequency. When you're in an elevated state, you're vibrating at a certain frequency. When you listen to sounds of nature, like the waterfall or birds chirping, and these different the sound of fire in a campfire, these are all sounds of the universe, and they have a particular frequency to them. And even something like mantras carry a vibration to them. We are like, I'm from India, and we are like the land of mantras.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so because the language and the way of chanting it, it's all based on vibrations. Like Sanskrit is a vibration based language.
Mm-hmm.
So I started delving deep into this and like understanding frequencies and brainwave states, and how you can alter your brainwave state based on what you're listening to. And within no, like, I wouldn't say it was like a magical overnight thing, but within some time I started seeing a lot of like good results with myself. And my anxiety was much lesser. I could sleep at night, and I started feeling good. And even what I started listening to was very different. you know. And so then I started experimenting with people and to just like test it out and like, see what I can do. And so I did like some sessions for like these old people and, you know, some people who are feeling very anxious. And I just said one thing, like I said a prayer that whatever is guiding me right now, like, I know that this is my gift and I want you to be with me in this session and help this person. And just like I'm using my instruments, I ask the divine energy to make me your instrument, you know.
Mm.
Yeah. So it was quite surprising because after these sessions with these people, like some of them would like burst out crying. Some of them would be like in this ecstatic, blissed out state, like, like in a state of trance. And some of them would like really like just start talking about their life and like wanting to release everything out, like, because one of my main things which I like to work with is the heart, like,
Yeah.
because a lot of baggage is carried in this part of the body and like, you feel heavy. So it's like you have like difficulty breathing, it's stuck. So I just like burst vibrations into this place and people just like want to start releasing things, emotions, feelings, words. And yeah, it's something like which I will be incorporating more professionally now into my creative art practice is through sound and art, because it's really something that it's very hard to explain because it's everything in this universe stems from sound in a way, and
Mm-hmm.
everything kind of vibrates. And like if you want to tune into a better space in your own life, like you need to first start shifting what you're listening to.
Oh,
Because yeah, what are the words? Because listening can be a lot of different things. Listening can be people telling you something, you know. Words are very powerful vibrations.
mm-hmm.
Words can make you or break you or destroy you or create you, you know. Those are also vibrations. What you are talking with yourself inside your head, those are also vibrations. Those are also words. So what you are listening to on a deeper level really can be something that can trigger healing, can trigger massive shifts in your life. And I can say from my own experience, even elevate your consciousness to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is all so beautiful to me because the thing that I really love about this is that it all comes down to science, but then also there's like this hippie vibe to it that I just can get behind, right? And there's so many different energies and frequencies that can stimulate a different emotion. And for
Yeah.
me, as I don't know if I don't have anything diagnosed, so I can't even speak to what it is, but I have a lot of sensory as far as auditory processing. When I get overstimulated and I get really overwhelmed, it's usually
Yeah.
when there's a lot of noises happening at the same time.
Absolutely. I'm the same. I'm extremely sensitive to loud noises. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like the most simplest example would be like you can experiment this with yourself. Like if you are in a place filled with traffic and there are horns blaring and there's a lot of chaos versus when you're in nature when it's more silent and you're hearing things on a deeper level, like you will feel the magic of sound,
Yeah.
you know you will feel, you will see how it affects your mind. So it definitely is like a very powerful tool for improving your mental health.
Yeah. I've been
Yeah.
one of the things that I've been working on in regards to sound specifically is because I have 4 children. There's a
Whoa,
lot of them around,
that's
right? There's
amazing.
and they're all
Yeah.
still kind of little. My oldest is
Mhm.
12 and my youngest is 5. So there's a lot of chaos going on.
Yeah.
And usually, especially on like a Saturday morning when it's time to clean the kitchen because we've been moving all week, and they've got their TV going, I want my music on. There's just sounds everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
instead of getting overwhelmed, and usually when I get overwhelmed is when I am embarrassed to admit it, but this is how my overwhelm gets portrayed, is that's when I yell. And I don't like
Yeah,
that, because I'm
yeah.
never angry with my children. I never like yell at them specifically, but I get so overstimulated that I'm like, ah!
I totally feel you, and I'm in the same boat with you on that one.
So I identify it, and I understand that it's probably not
Yeah,
my most healthy habit, and so or trait, and so it's something that I've been working on. And what I've been
yeah,
telling my children is, I am very overstimulated right now. I need to go sit outside, and I'll go
yeah,
sit on the front porch. And they understand and respect that time. They don't come bother me. They understand that I'm overstimulated. It's been a process. Like, I would say maybe we've been working on that for like a year, because they used to just open the door all the time. And the thing
yeah.
that gets me is my door squeaks.
It's
And so when they open the door, it's another
it's
like
so
sound that
annoying.
grinds my gears.
Yeah,
But that is something that
absolutely.
I've had to understand, that the sound and the overstimulation from that,
Mhm.
sometimes I just need to reset my nervous system,
Yeah,
regulate it, sit outside for 30 minutes, and then come back inside, and then I can handle the things. But when I
yeah.
wake up to chaos, that's not the way I like to start my Saturday mornings.
Yeah, definitely makes a hell of a difference. And I can totally feel you on that one, because like there are a lot of children in my house too, and like, people are coming and going inside, and I'm just like, when I get into that deep state of focus, just then somebody comes and like, I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, that it's a very healthy thing to like take out that time for yourself. And one thing I found myself, like one of the biggest shifts that occurred with me, is that I found of I sort of found this kind of stillness within me, or you can call it a silence or a stillness, which I can tap into no matter how chaotic it gets. You know, all I need to do is what you said. I need to just take out some time and sit with myself and take a few deep breaths and say,
Recenter.
you got
Yeah.
this, man. Chill. Like, yeah. Instead of like what I would do before, I would start like impulsively react, or like, sometimes I would just like pack my bags and say like, I hate the city. I'm leaving the city. I don't want to be in
Right.
the city. I just want to live in the mountains somewhere and like, just chill. But that's escapism, That's you're not really dealing with the situation. You're just going from one place to another, and then you've not worked on the root of the problem. So yeah, it's something I feel like every person should have that skill of like tapping, because one thing more powerful than sound is silence.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and like when it's completely silent within yourself and then in your surroundings, like that's when you realize just like so many things go on in our heads. And if you can tap into that silence within, it's there is no therapy, there is nothing that can shift your life as much as that. That's what I feel.
And I feel like that's another I wouldn't call it creative coping, but maybe it is.
Yeah, yeah,
Just, you know what I mean? Like, just embracing the silence, just going and like sitting in the mountains somewhere for a second. Like, I've been really
yeah.
the past couple of days I've really had a hankering to just get up to the hot springs and just go
Oh
sit
wow.
in the hot springs and in the mountains. And I'm like, oh, but responsibilities and things. But
Yeah,
I really want to just get out there. And I think that sometimes you just have to listen to that, and,
yeah,
rearrange your schedule in some ways, and just make a priority to get out there and
yeah. You'll
reset.
be very surprised actually, because I mean, in the course of my life, and I've asked people this question, but a lot of them do not have the ability to sit in silence. Like they
Mm,
get anxious. They get anxious. There are people who are like, if you talk to them, they're continuously speaking without like a comma or a full stop. It's just like pop, 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 shooting words like, at rapid succession. And like you can feel the energy. You can feel like if this person had to sit down and just like take a few deep breaths and relax, that would be very difficult for them. so, so yeah, I think like it's also because we are in this age of information, from the minute we wake up to the time we sleep, our brain is processing so
Mhm.
many things, like through visuals, through social media, through your auditory senses, through like everything, like it's just information overload. And you need to take out the time in the day. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 1 minute. Just sit with yourself and observe, listen, like see what's happening, you know.
That's something
That's
that I guess maybe I don't know if I would say taken for granted, but something that I've never
mm.
thought about in that way is a blessing of being an introvert,
Oh
because
yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah,
I used to be more like outgoing and wild and crazy, like that energy
me
you were
too.
describing
Me
when
too.
I was a
Yeah,
child. And I feel
yeah.
like especially going through my postpartum depression and then through my divorce, like within the last decade, I've
Yeah.
really transitioned more to this soft, and I think that comes
Mm.
through healing, maybe.
Mm.
In my own way, I guess. I'm not sure if that's for everybody. Maybe people through healing, they become more extroverted, whatever. It's each
Yeah.
person's individual, but I've become this more soft, empathetic. Um, I don't know how to describe my energy. I wish I could perceive it from someone else's point of view, but
Mm-hmm.
um, now I can sit and look at someone and talk to them and have a conversation with them and read their energy and know if this
Yeah.
person's going to be a good fit in my life. And I
Yeah.
can I can look at them and see it, instead of, there's this saying that it's like listening to respond or listening to
Mm-hmm.
understand. And that's
Yeah.
something that I've embodied too. Like, are you truly listening to someone, like taking it
Absolutely.
in, or are you just like trying to like bop, 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 and keep the
Yeah.
conversation going? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
there's
it's
a
it's
really beautiful blessing, I think, in being an introvert in that way, because I feel like some introverts just understand things at a different level.
absolutely, and it's the same with me because I used to be very outgoing, very the party kid, like jumping around, loads of people in my life, and when things like went to rock bottom, I would say like I just completely said goodbye to the world and like went into a nutshell. Then to break out of that nutshell also and to emerge as something new took some time,
Mhm.
because now I can have a conversation with someone like you or someone who I can connect with and genuinely have like something to take back, some beautiful exchange of vibrations, some beautiful exchange of words, rather than just like sitting and like having a conversation for the sake of conversing, I would say.
I
Yeah.
agree. And you know what? I
Yeah.
was just thinking, like, how beautiful that, because I kind of talk shit sometimes on social media because it's just such a
Mhm.
shithole sometimes. But
It
but in this moment, I am very grateful for it, because I got to meet
yeah,
you through
me too.
Instagram, and we were able to just
Absolutely.
connect that way. And there's so many different interactions. I think actually every single person I've had on my podcast I've met through social media. And so
Wow.
it's a really cool way to connect with people all over the world and just
Yeah.
get to experience other people's energy, that, and you
Yeah.
can read their energy online prior to um actually meeting them. Like in our
Mm.
DMs when you and I were
You can
chatting,
feel
I was
it.
like, I would
Absolutely.
love to have you on my podcast. I think it'd be a good fit. Like, I could feel your energy
Wow.
in those DMs. And so I think that's a good thing, like.
It is. It's like a very beautiful way to use this tool because still you have people saying like, social media sucks, some people use social media for all kinds of things. And I think it's just what it is, it's a tool to connect and
Mhm.
you can use it for something good. You can use it for something that, screws your mind over.
Well, it's like the saying, like, a brick
Yeah.
is just a brick. You can
Yeah.
use it to throw it through a window, or you can
Yeah.
use it to build a house or shelter for
Yeah.
people that need it. Like, so it is what you make it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so,
Absolutely.
anyways, I was just sitting here thinking, like, how grateful I am for the opportunity to have met you.
Me too.
I think
It's
both
so
of our
beautiful.
thank you. I think you're so
Yeah.
beautiful. I think both of our Instagram accounts are so small too. It's not like either one of us went viral and that's how we
Yeah.
found each other. It was just, I don't
No.
even know. I have no idea, but I just think it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful connection and I'm just feeling really grateful for it right now. So thank you
Me
for
too.
being here.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Thank
If
you.
people would like to connect with you, how do they do so?
So you can connect with me on Instagram for sure. Like I'm not on many platforms right now, you know, but Instagram is one. You can connect with me on Play Pause Forward, which is my new creative venture. And also, you can just type in my name on Instagram, which is Rohit Guha, ROHITGUHA, and you'll find a strange looking guy playing with some strange looking instruments, and that's me.
Well, I will put all of the
Yeah,
links to all of your social media platforms and things on
yeah.
there so people can find you easily. I'll put those in the show notes. So
Thank you so
this
much.
is such a blessing. Thank you so much for being
It
here.
was amazing talking to you. Definitely. Thank you.